Welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome you all to the show. Look, this is at the bequest of someone who sent me some information, and so we're gonna gather all this information together and combine it to make a show for you guys tonight as we enter into the new year, right? But we can't close out 2020 until this information is present, because it wouldn't be sufficient to bring this information to the forefront in 2021, because you will need this information as a guide, as a navigator into the year 2021. So we're getting ready to get started, right? And I want y'all to go remember what I'm saying, but I'll make a point of reference when I get to the second part of this, so you all can combine the two, because it's relevant, right? Now, we all know that Jupiter represented God, right? And Saturn represented Satan, right? So at one point, the worship of Saturn was in effect, but the worship of Saturn is up. Now Jupiter is coming in. So as Jupiter comes in, the old mindset of Saturn has to go away, because it won't be sufficient in the new times to gather anything of substance, because it's played out, right? But those who believe so heavily in it, it'll be hard for them to let go in their own mindsets. They really will believe that they're still in power, and the worship of Saturn is still in effect, and they're just taking themselves down fastly. So here we go. Saturnalia, right? Saturnalia was an ancient Roman festival and holiday in honor of the god Saturn, held on the 17th of December on the Julian calendar, and later expanded with festivities through the 25th of December. The holiday was celebrated with a sacrifice at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum and a public banquet, followed by private gift giving, continual partying, and a carnival atmosphere that overturned Roman social norms. Gambling was permitted, and masters provided table service for their slaves, as it was seen as a time of liberty for both slaves and freed men alike. All right. Now let me break that down before we go, right? Because this goes into the next part with the Willie Lynch letters, right? And how he was not just making a physical slave, he was making a mental consumer slave. This was also part of letting the slaves participate in gift giving and receiving gifts, to make them feel as if they were part of the Roman elite, because they were getting gifts in their homes, just as well as the higher ups were getting, the rulers, the Caesars and whatnot, was getting gifts as well. So in that particular time, it gave the slaves some semblance of power, in a sense. Made them feel good. Made them that time during the winter solstice, or during the celebration of Saturn. That time they can feel on an even scale as their slave masters, right? Now this was back in Rome, right? Okay. A common custom was the election of a king of the Saturnalia, who would give orders to people, which were to be followed, and preside over the merrymaking. The gifts exchanged were usually gag gifts or small figurines made of wax or pottery, known as sigillaria, Sigillaria. The poet Catullus, which is Catullus, called it the best of days. Saturnalia was a Roman equivalent to the earlier Greek holiday of Koronia, right? Kronia. All this ties together. Which was celebrated during the Attic month of Hekatomb, which is Hekatomb, Hekatomb Aion, in late midsummer. It held theological importance for some Romans who saw it as a restoration of the ancient Golden Age, when the world was ruled by Saturn. The Neoplatonist philosopher Porphyry, Porphyry, interpreted the freedom associated with Saturnalia as symbolizing the freeing of souls into immortality. Saturnalia may have influenced some of the customs associated with the later celebrations in Western Europe occurring in midwinter, particularly traditions associated with Christmas, the Feast of the Holy Innocents, and Epiphany. In particular, the historical Western European Christmas custom of electing a Lord of Misrule may have its roots in Saturnalia celebration. Remember, Saturn was aka Satan. They elected a Lord of Misrule. They allowed them to see. That's why in Jeremiah and Leviticus it tells you about don't follow the way of the heathens, because they go in the forest and get an evergreen tree and they fasten it with hammer and nails, woods or whatever, and they deck it with, and so it won't move. They deck it with gold and silver. They say don't follow the way of these heathens, right? Because in their worship of Saturn, aka Satan, you were allowed to do all kind of immoral, everything that was against your nature. But the breaking of the slaves, Willie Lynch had to break the people down in order to accept a immoral way of life. Right, so a process, they had to go under, right? So I want to get to it with you all real quick, because this is the second part of it, right? Now y'all check this out, and it was pointed out to me, and I want to share with you all. This is the Willie Lynch letters, right? This speech was delivered by Willie Lynch on the bank of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712. Lynch was a British slave owner in the West Indies. He was invited to the colony of Virginia in 1712 to teach his methods to slave owners there. The term lynching is derived from his last name. Now check this out. They brought him there in 1712, because prior to 1712, even though we know the first slaves arrived in America in 1505 on a slave ship called Jesus by John Hardy Hawkins, right? Okay, now, but they brought Willie Lynch there. Think about this, from 1619 to 1712, right? Slaves were slaves in America. You had the black natives that was here. You had slaves coming from the Caribbeans, from Jamaica. You had slaves coming from Africa, all in America. Some were fighting back. The black natives was fighting back. So they was having a problem. So they brought Willie Lynch in. They brought him in as a gift to America, December 25th, 1712. They brought him here on Christmas Day, right? But what was he actually doing? Two things. He was making a physical bondage slave. He was making a mental slave. he was also making a consumer slave. That's why people go into debt every year around Christmas time to purchase those gifts, because they do it subconsciously. They have to do it. You know, it's been passed down from generations to generation. He set the tone. Check this out. And this is Willie Lynch. I greet you here on the bank of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, right? Where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. Ancient Rome. Why would ancient Rome envy them? Because they took an old practice in Rome, right? And they brought it forth in the 1700s, and they perfected it. Let me show you something. Hold on. See, okay. Now check this out. Christmas is an annual festival commemorizing the birth of Jesus Christ observed. The first recorded Christmas celebration was in Rome on December 25th AD 336 in the 3rd century, right? So they've been had a system that I read, and as I read to you all earlier, how they said it was part of a celebration of Saturn, right? Because if you go do your research, they'll tell you they don't know the birth of Jesus. Why they had the Xmas of Jesus? They don't know the actual date of it. They gave it the 25th because they implemented Saturn worship with Jesus and Christianity, and they combined all of it and gave it to you as a holiday. But the underlying factor of it all was dealing with slavery. All right, let me get back. Okay, now this is still part of Willie Lynch letter, because he's telling them Rome, right? Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented, and his program did. Okay, he says, gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I'm not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves and make the differences bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control, right? I'm going to break that down in a minute. But look, so when he stated that it will control the slaves for at least 300 years, that his method would end, and it ended in 2012, right? That whole Willie Lynch and controlling the slave for 300 years ended in 2012. So for us black people, what's the problem? You know, no longer should we be afraid, right? No longer should we distrust each other without a valid reason. No longer should we envy each other, because those are were methods for them to gain control over us and make us mentally, physically, and consumer slaves. Don't check it out. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and they will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantation, and status on plantations. Right? Wait, hold on, before I go further, let me say it again. Right? Second is color or shade. Right? He used age was first. Right? Why was age first? Because we had traditions where we respect our elders. And whether, I don't care if you were black in America, I'm talking about prior to slavery. If you was black indigenous in America, black indigenous in Australia, black indigenous in Brazil, black indigenous in Africa, it didn't matter. The system was, the storytellers was the elders who passed down traditions, culture, history, medicine to the youth. Right? So the first thing was to break the elders and get in the way of that knowledge being transmitted to the youth. That way the youth would be wayward. They wouldn't have anything to grasp on or no knowledge passed down to them. So they had to break the traditions. They had to break the songs. They had to break the dances. Whatever the elders was doing to get the lessons or the message of the ancestral history or culture over to the youth, they broke that method. So it made the youth not have a knowledge of self or a knowledge of who they were. Right? Okay. Then there is intelligence, right? Look, we gotta whenever you see these movies or you read about the history of slavery where they didn't allow blacks to read or write, or you couldn't speak a certain way or look the slave master in his eyes or whatnot, and not the fact that the people still wasn't intelligent. It's just that they couldn't display their intelligence for fear of them getting killed. So they had to put on an act for survival when you would see them buck dance or y'all's a boss, because that's what he wanted to hear. So that's what they had to do in order to survive. But as time went on, that new creation that the white man was creating, because he was creating a new creation. He was creating a new type of black person that didn't exist before. One that was afraid of him, one who couldn't read or write, one who couldn't pass down the knowledge and culture down to his youth, a man who couldn't have control of his family, who couldn't be with his wife, who couldn't rear his children because slave masters could just pick him up, take him wherever he wanted. So it was sick, but it was a method, right? Okay. Size, they divided the tall against the short, the big against the skinny. Sex divided the male and the female. Look all the way down to the size of the plantation. Reason why I'm saying this is because they had a systematic, a science on the methods that they used to discombobulate the slaves, or i.e. black people, right? This just didn't come on a whim. They sit and work on a plan and a method to destroy us. And he said if it's done right, it would last all the way to 2012. 2012 is gone and past, so what's the problem? But meaning that system that he used worked so well. And the only thing that's going to break that system is somebody coming with a higher knowledge, higher than what he had, that will break the system, right? That's why on this show you keep hearing me say, listen to Farrakhan, study teaching Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Listen to Farrakhan, study teaching Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Not due to any person worship. Has nothing to do with it. Has something to do with the teachings, the word that was taught that will free you overnight. Don't get caught up in personality worship and looking at the individuals, checking out their make and who they are and what they wear. No, a message came to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that was to break, dispel that Willie Lynch put upon black people. That's why when you always hear Mr. Farrakhan talk to the nation, you hear him say, do for self. That's an order to break the spell Willie Lynch put upon black people. So that's the reason why you hear on this show, because it's still valuable today, and I'm talking about the NOI, and it's still moving, it's still thriving, and it's still growing on the reverse method of Willie Lynch. So get that message so you can reverse the process, right? Okay. Attitudes of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or on a hill, east, west, north, or south, have fine hair or coarse hair. All this was used, whether you was a slave, because you got to remember, a lot of these blacks, a lot of the slave masters, the white men, raped black women, and they would have what they would call fine hair. But a lot of the slaves were just black natives with straight hair, right? And that they enslaved. But he was like, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect or admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, see, they're indoctrinating you, and they're telling you the process they use to indoctrinate you, shall carry on and will become self-refueling, meaning it's going to carry on, and Willie Lynch and the slave master can go sit down and sip their tea or coffee, relax, and we'll follow this method subconsciously. It'll be self-refueling. We'll just pass it on to the next generation, and it'll just keep going and keep going and keep going. Even the same style, the way the preachers teach today, was the same way that they taught in slavery, and the white man set him up on a pulpit and told him what to teach the people. And that's been passed. But all this, see, that's why when you be saying, man, why the youth not in church, and why people calling out these pastors, and because the whole Willie Lynch thing ended in 2012, and you seeing people waking up more and more by the day because it's over. 2021 is the year of experience and change. It's the number 5. 2021, 2 and 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. The year 5 is over. Okay, refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years. Maybe even thousands. Now, the 1,000 was a maybe because it was supposed to end 2012, but they saying, hey, if we put it on them so good, man, we could run this thing for thousands of years. So thousands would, oh my God, that'd be 2113. See? So, no. That's why I keep telling you, I got to repeat it again. Study the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Read Message to the Black Man. Listen to Brother Farrakhan. Five Percenters, Brother Shabazz, Supreme Allah. I mean, so many that's teaching you to break, or whatever you can do to break that this Willie Lynch indoctrination that he put up on the people, right? Is what I'm saying. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slave versus the light-skinned slave. Now, let me break that down. George Floyd, who was shot and killed, and we know who George Floyd was. Andre Hill in Ohio, who was shot and killed. One dark-skinned, one light-skinned. Now, in America, they see both of them as slaves. But what they did was, he said, you're going to use the light-skinned slave against the dark-skinned slave, right? But that's only in the confines of slave-minded people and the slave population to have the slaves divided. So they'll distrust and fight the dark against the light. That only matters to the slave population or to black folks. But outside of the black race, the white race see them both as slaves or both as niggas. But in the black population, one tries to say, I'm better than you because I'm dark-skinned. I'm better than you because I'm light-skinned, right? And it keeps that fight going on. We'll create a society where only light-skinned people are invited. We'll create a society where only dark-skinned people are invited. We'll go on a cruise and have the dark skin against the light skin. See, that's passing on, like that Tom Johnner cruise, that was passing on that same old slave mentality that was created by white folks, and they thought it was funny, right? Shit wasn't funny. Okay. The light-skinned slave versus the dark-skinned. You must use the female versus the male, right? And come on, I don't even have to go into that. That's for another topic. That'd take too long. And the male versus the female. I don't want to go into that. That'd take too long. They know what they was doing. We're going to send all the females to college, get them a good job. We're going to keep our foot on the black man's neck. It's a game. It's been going on, right? You must also have your white servants, right, and overseers distrust all blacks, right? That's embedded in American culture. I'll give you an example. You could be minding your own business, right? Coming out the grocery store, headed to your car, right? You're not even paying attention, but you'll see white folks, the clattering of them locking their car door. Or you will see a white woman grab onto her husband as though you mean to do to her any harm. Or they clutch their purse as if, or they try to try to walk on the other side as if you want them or something, right? That's where this come from. They supposed to, because they want to send off a feeling to you when they do these certain acts to make you feel a certain way that they don't trust you. And then your response supposed to be, well, what did I do to you? Why you don't distrust me? I'm good people. And the more you chase, they respect, the more they got to keep it away from you. When you really supposed to say, the hell with you, I don't want you, and then you got. That's the proper response, and that's how you free yourself, right? Okay. It is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. He talked about the white race, right? That was bad, when I was coming in 70s, 80s. Black man going to a black doctor, he wanted a white doctor. Black man going to an accountant, white accountant. Anything, black man would sit up there and tell you the truth, but you wouldn't believe it unless a white person bagged it up. Then it became true. Or you would hear people make statements, I know it's true because I got it from a white man. Or them white folks, the way they do this and do that. You know, you was passing down this indoctrination, and they done it so cold, it's like you had amnesia. You didn't even know you was passing down the indoctrination. That's what the song we did, Amnesia, all about, right? Because it's bigger than the song. It's bigger than the video. Song Amnesia. You got amnesia. You suffering from amnesia, and a touch of white Jesus. That's what's it's whooping you. But okay, we're gonna keep going though, right? Have your wives and children use them, right? Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful of each other. And that's what happened. We don't trust. People say, wow, man, why we don't support each other? You know, all these black folks, the amount of money that we bring into this economy, you know, we should be running this and owning this. Well, we still shaking off we indoctrinated, man. We still shaking this shit off. It's taking a minute. And it shouldn't take this long, though. The sad part about it is, it shouldn't take this long, but I understand. See, I understand the problem. See, the problem is when you have, and I'm going back to the Nation of Islam, right? When you have people come with a message, and then you have another group of people that's not even our race try to get in between that message and say, hey, don't listen to that. And if you listen to that, you're going to be in trouble. Meaning what they saying is, you my slaves and you get back in your place. And don't you listen to anything that they say because they trying to make you not be slaves. So they're a threat. Right? You fear me, don't fear God. And that's basically what they saying. All right. So in this title, it says, let's make a slave. But before we get into that, he signed on that first part as, thank you, gentlemen. Gentlemen, come on. I mean, the hypocrisy in that, but okay. Let's make a slave. It was the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature, right? And the slave nature in particular, right? Right? Let me read that again, man, because we got to break it down bit by bit, but this is one of the most important sentences ever written, right, in dealing with us as a people in the history of slavery, right? It was the interest, right, meaning interest is gain. It is the interest or gain, and the business, meaning the trade and the practice of business and the science of business of the slave holders to study human nature, right? Right. Of all people, the nature of humans, human nature. And the slave nature in particular, but most of all, study the nature of the slave, right? Now, not study the nature of the black freedmen or free blacks or the nature of blacks before slavery. Study the nature once they indoctrinated the individual and turned them into a slave. Study that, is what he's saying. With a view to practical results, I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. They had to deal not with earth, wood and stone, but with men, and by every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong, they were every hour perpetuating and knowing what they themselves would do. Were they the victims of such wrongs? They were constantly looking for the first signs of the dreaded retribution. They watched, therefore, with skilled and practiced eyes and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and the heart of the slave through his sable face, unusually sobriety, apparent abstractions, subtleness, and indifference indeed. Any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicion and inquiry. Let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a black nigger man, a pregnant nigger woman, and her baby nigger boy. Second, we will use the same basic principles that we use in breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature, whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take care of their offspring. We break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our businesses and pleasure. Right, there you go right there. They were breaking the black man down to be a physical slave, a mental slave, and a consumer slave, because they telling you it's useful for production for their businesses and their pleasure. Meaning you got to spend in their shops, in their stores, right, to keep their businesses going. And then you got to entertain them for their pleasure. And that's how you, and that was it. Other than that, we don't need you. Right. We need, and we're going to indoctrinate you. We're going to indoctrinate you on Christmas Day, 1712. Right. So from this day forth, the reason why it was done on Christmas Day, so it'll make a bigger celebration, because the biggest gift of all was indoctrinate these black people as slaves. And if you do that, white folks, you gonna eat all the way up until 2012. But what happened in 2019, 7 years later, after the indoctrination was supposed to end? COVID hit. Right. And once COVID hit, things stopped. Knowledge steady flowing. People starting to wake up. And so 100% of the indoctrination couldn't be inflicted upon black society, because black society was getting rid of already. I know we done got rid of 30% of it, moving on 40%. As we go into the year 2021 with the death of George Floyd, that knocked out another 10. So really, it's over. 2020, that cop, the cop Coy, C-O-Y, who murdered Andre Hill in, I think, Columbus, Ohio, brother in his garage with his cell phone, 10 seconds after the cop arrived, the man was dead, talking about he didn't see his underhand. They got an example of that dude. And they not gonna make an example out of him for black people. They make an example out of him to save their own selves, to try to calm what's coming if they don't change. They telling these hardcore racists or rednecks, whatever you want to call them, hey, look, man, you gotta cool your heels. Times has changed. You can't just go around snatching black folks off the streets, fool. Police officers, you just can't be riding up killing black people. Them days gone. That's why people putting pressure on Biden. Hey, look, Biden, do. And Biden understand what's going on. That's why Trump is fighting so hard, because he left a lot of things on the table unattended for his supporters. Let's put it like that. So he really trying to get in office. He really trying to, hey, I got to get this done. He really trying, but Biden understand. Trump understand. Let me tell you what's going on, right? Trump understands too. Trump not no idiot, because he's privy to a lot of information in the White House that a lot of people don't understand. But the way he going about doing it, he like, to hell with all the other races and everybody else. I'm just deal with the red states. But Biden understand, man, if you do that, we won't have no America. So they caught in the quagmire, right? But prophecy has already been written, and ain't nothing you can do about it, man. As I stated earlier, and as in the teachings of the Nation of Islam, that's why I keep saying, I don't want to take credit for it, because this part is not my teaching. As it said that we write our history in advance, 25,000 years in advance, and then we walk through it. This has already been written. We just walking through it. So when you got people who be saying, well, it don't have to be this way, we're going to do it like this, we're going to do, well, what they really saying is they believe that prophecy can be changed. And okay, that's fine. If you got the power and the will and the strength to change prophecy of what was already written, you got the free will to do that. Cool. But if you don't have that power to do it, and you will find yourself out of bounds or out of sorts, because the prophecy is going to roll in that direction regardless. If it's already written, so let it be written, so let it be done. It was already written. You're going that way anyway, unless you got the power to change prophecy. If you don't, it's gonna go down like it was written to go down. And if you understand Quran, Bible, and these texts, you know what was written and what's gonna happen. It's been happening. Look, Abraham, no surety, your seed gonna be in bondage for 400 years in a strange land amongst a strange people. Right? That's blacks in America's only time in bondage in history where you can find people in a strange land, in a land that's not their own, eating strange food, speaking a different language, and the whole nine. Right? Already written, man. It's already in effect. Nothing we can do about it. Right? So the reason why the weather and all of these changes are going on, because it's time, and so God is using the force of nature to bring in His will, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's all I'm saying. We're gonna keep hitting y'all with information. Make sure y'all be on the lookout for the documentary that's coming. Make sure y'all check out EDP2. Give a shout out to Frequency, A-Tone Productions, Vropic Radio. Just so many people out there, man. I appreciate y'all listenership. I appreciate Snare Smith, Rock Diva, Low Key, the whole crew, the 90s. I mean, it's just so many people. I just appreciate y'all. And it don't stop here on Vropic Radio. Happy New Year. And we're going to make some changes in 2021. Before I go, before I go, I got to say this. The Nashville bomber that blew up right in front of AT&T building, you all heard how his girlfriend in 2019 told them that he was making bombs on his RV, and nothing they did about it. Now, had he been black, man, they'd have kicked in his door without a warrant, search warrant. It's like they rolled up and killed Mr. Hill. Within 10 seconds upon their arrival, this man dead. But this lady calling the police on this white man about him making bombs in his RV and even told him she was his girlfriend, and they did nothing. And when black folks say, well, that's white privilege. White people saying, there's no such thing, we all equal. Come on, y'all know y'all get white privilege. Stop fronting. I know y'all can cuss at the police. Y'all can chase the police. Y'all can even fight the police, and they're not going to shoot you and kill you. Stop being fake. That's the thing. But I guess in order to keep the narrative going that white is right, and I guess you can't admit it, you got to keep going on with the fantasy. You know? I guess it gives some sense of security. But maybe we as black people don't understand why white people stick to white privilege and, and run with it. Because we not white, so maybe, and we don't understand it, we haven't walked them out in their shoes on why they won't come out and say, hey, it's bullshit, I know. Right? I don't know, and I'm talking about for white privilege. Some do, but I'm just saying on a mass scale. I don't know. But hey, we'll figure it out in 2021. Verpic Radio, we're out.